Danny DeVito just turned 80, but his life story is heartbreaking. His own mother admitted she never wanted him. His father turned violent every night when he drank. Police were called to their house 17 times before Danny was even 15. But that's not the worst part. Danny has been hiding a painful secret for decades, a rare condition that makes every single day an agony. Hollywood offered him millions to get surgery and change his face. He refused and burned the contract. Now, at 80, the truth about his suffering is finally coming out. Danny DeVito's life didn't start easy. He was born in Neptune, New Jersey in 1944, and from the very beginning, the odds were stacked against him. His mother, Julia, was already 40 and had raised several children. She didn't want another. Years later, she admitted it openly. "I didn't want him, but I'm so proud of him." That kind of confession could break anyone. But for Danny, it became fuel. That early feeling of rejection never left him, and he carried it like a shadow throughout his childhood. But instead of letting it weigh him down, he pushed forward. He wanted to prove he was worth something. His struggles didn't stop at home either. His father, Daniel Sr., was a kind man during the day. He owned a candy shop in Asbury Park and was well-liked in the community. But when night came and the alcohol kicked in, he turned into someone else, angry, loud, even violent. Danny learned to watch for the signs, the sound of bottles, the way his dad's footsteps changed. Sometimes he hid in closets. Other times, he ran to the neighbors. Between 1950 and 1955, police were called to their house at least 17 times. These childhood experiences left deep marks. Years later, Danny stayed completely sober himself and even created a support program called Little Giants in 1992. It helped over 15,000 kids from homes just like his get the support they needed. By the time he was 14, Danny knew he had to get out. His neighborhood was crumbling. Heroin was everywhere. 2 of his childhood friends were dead before turning 16. So he made a plan. He studied hard, saved $237 from small jobs, and convinced his parish priest to speak to his parents. He aimed for oratory prep school. His timing was careful. He asked his parents for permission only when his father was sober and feeling guilty. His mother, feeling the weight of her past rejection, agreed. That decision likely saved his life. Out of 12 friends from that time, only 3 made it past 25 without ending up in prison or hooked on drugs. There was something else, too. Danny had a rare genetic condition called Fairbanks disease. That's why he only grew to 4 feet 10 inches. But it wasn't just about height. It hurt constantly. His hips, knees, and back ached without stopping. In his 20s and 30s, his pain level often hovered around 6 to 8 out of 10. Still, he didn't quit. He did his own stunts. He even collapsed 4 times while filming One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and pretended it was just part of the role. He never got hooked on pain medication, even though doctors offered it. And quietly, he donated over $12 million to help fund treatments for others with bone conditions like his. He never put his name on the projects. He didn't want attention. He just wanted others to suffer less. Before acting, Danny had another job, one that most fans don't expect. He was a beautician. He trained for it, put in 1,500 hours, and graduated second in his class at beauty school. He worked in his sister Angela's salon, called Curl Up and Die. He got so good at it that people booked appointments months in advance. He even won awards for a signature hairstyle called a Neptune twist. He took it seriously, even if he first started just to meet girls. One day, while doing a client's hair, her husband, a theater producer, told Danny to audition for a play. That's how it all started. In 1962, Danny applied to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts to study makeup. They asked him to do a monologue. Though he had no experience, he gave a shot. He performed a scene from The Rainmaker. Something clicked. They offered him a spot, not for makeup, but for acting. He didn't say yes right away. He went back to the salon, but 3 days later, the school called again and offered him a partial scholarship. That second call changed his life. A few years later, he was living in New York with a roommate named Michael Douglas. They shared a tiny apartment with cockroaches, barely any heat, and a $75 rent they could hardly afford. Douglas kept quiet about being Kirk Douglas's son. They ate canned beans and stale bread. One time, they spent their last $27 printing headshots and delivering them across the city on foot. While Douglas booked some roles, Danny kept getting rejected, but the bond stayed strong. Years later, Douglas specifically asked for Danny to be cast in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and that role changed everything. Before that big break, Danny faced brutal years in Hollywood. Between 1967 and 1970, he auditioned 248 times. He got just 3 small gigs, earning less than $800 total. To survive, he took strange jobs, parking cars, standing still like a mannequin in a clothing store, and even cleaning cages at the LA Zoo. He read lines to chimpanzees just to keep his skills sharp. For a period of time, he lived in his old Volkswagen Beetle. He showered at the YMCA and ate at soup kitchens. He kept that story to himself for decades. Hollywood wanted to change him. Producers and agents told him to get surgery. Some suggested breaking and lengthening his legs. Others wanted to reshape his face. One studio even offered him nearly $1 million in today's money if he went through with it. He said no. In fact, he burned the contract at a beach bonfire. He refused to become someone else for the sake of fame. One response he gave to a casting director stayed with him for years. "I'd rather be a first-rate version of myself than a second-rate version of someone else." His early roles paid little and came with more struggle. His first off-Broadway show paid just $25 a week. He worked overnight shifts at a printing press just to afford rent. During that show, he was dealing with deep depression and almost quit entirely. His first movie paid him just over $200, and he got pneumonia filming in freezing water. He even slept in a barn to save money. His father got sick in 1972, and Danny couldn't go home much. When his father died, it crushed him. He applied for a postal job and seriously thought about giving up acting altogether. But on the same day he got that offer letter, the phone rang. It was about an audition for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That moment changed everything. The pain, the poverty, the rejection, it all led to that one chance. And he took it. His former roommate, Michael Douglas, was the producer. Even more remarkably, DeVito had already played the same character, Martini, years earlier in a stage version. So when the casting team was unsure, he was already fully prepared. The film was shot inside a real mental hospital, and the cast even included real patients as extras. The setting was intense, and that helped Danny bring something raw and real to his performance. He was only on screen for 5 minutes and 52 seconds, but he left a lasting mark. Director Milos Forman stood by him even when the studio wanted a bigger name. The film went on to win 5 major Oscars, and while Danny didn't get nominated, he was finally on the map. Then in 1978, DeVito made a choice that most people thought was insane. He gave up 3 movie roles to audition for a TV sitcom called Taxi. His own agent told him not to do it. Everyone in Hollywood said switching from film to television was career suicide. But DeVito trusted his gut. When he read the script, he knew he had to play the character Louis De Palma. During the audition, he didn't just read lines. He performed a full 7-minute monologue that left everyone stunned. The network was nervous about his short height, just 4 feet 10 inches. But creator James L. Brooks threatened to quit if they didn't cast him. That's how much he believed in Danny. DeVito didn't even negotiate for more money. He signed a contract right away, even though it paid 40% less than what other actors were making. And just like that, everything changed. Before Taxi, he had been rejected from nearly 200 auditions in 3 years. Casting directors kept telling him he was too short, too strange-looking, too different. But once the show aired, he became a sensation. Within 8 episodes, he received more than 11,000 fan letters. Unheard of, especially for a supporting character. Louis De Palma wasn't just funny. He was nasty, rude, and unapologetically awful, and people absolutely loved it. Censors received between 3 and 5 complaint letters every single episode just because of Louis. DeVito would prepare for each scene by sitting alone silently, listing all the people who had ever rejected him. That anger, that energy, it went straight into the performance. By 1980, 93% of Americans could recognize Louis De Palma just from his voice or silhouette. His dispatch booth, built to match DeVito's size, became one of the most iconic sets in TV history. Then came the awards. In 1980, DeVito won a Golden Globe. A year later, he won an Emmy. It shocked everyone. Louis De Palma wasn't a typical hero or even a likable character, but people couldn't look away. The Emmy win was especially sweet because DeVito had been largely ignored during the show's first season. When he finally got his trophy, he said just 12 words, "Thank you. I'm really happy about this." Taxi is the best show on television. It became the shortest acceptance speech in Emmy history. That same year, Vegas betting sites had Jack Albertson as the favorite to win the Golden Globe. DeVito beat him. Behind the scenes, some judges didn't even want to nominate him. They thought his character was too awful to reward. But his win changed everything. It proved that audiences could love villains too. That idea shaped television for decades. NBC even tried to poach him, offering $175,000 per episode for his own show, more than 11 times what he was already earning. He said no. He wanted to stay loyal to the Taxi cast. Somewhere in the middle of all that success, DeVito met Rhea Perlman, and it happened in the most unexpected way. She was actually dating Danny's roommate and came over to break up with him. That's when she met Danny. They talked for 6 hours that night. DeVito later said he knew within 22 minutes that he wanted to marry her. A year later, Perlman joined Taxi to play a love interest for Louis. The producers didn't even know they were dating in real life. Their chemistry was so real that everyone thought it was just great acting. They secretly moved in together after only 2 weeks, cramming into Danny's tiny 450-square-foot apartment. Even after they got married in 1982, they kept separate dressing rooms on set to avoid any appearance of favoritism. What most people don't know is that they were also quietly building something behind the scenes. In 1983, they started Jersey Films, their own production company, working on at nights and weekends while still filming Taxi. Over 40 years later, they've worked on 17 projects together and created a personal rule. They would never go more than 2 weeks without collaborating on something creative as a team. Once Taxi ended in 1983, DeVito did something most TV actors couldn't pull off. He made the jump to film successfully. That same year, he landed a role in Terms of Endearment, which won Best Picture at the Oscars. In 1984, he stole scenes in Romancing the Stone, which made over $115 million on just a $10 million budget. He teamed up with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner again for the sequel, The Jewel of the Nile. Around the same time, he took a smaller role in Johnny Dangerously just to stay visible on screen. He was making smart moves, stacking up film credits while building momentum. In 1986, he went full villain in Ruthless People, playing a greedy man who refuses to pay ransom after his wife is kidnapped. People loved it. The movie cost $7.5 million and earned over $71 million. DeVito earned a Golden Globe nomination, and his performance became the centerpiece of the entire film. He wasn't afraid to be hated, and that confidence opened more doors. In 1987, DeVito made his directorial debut with Throw Mama from the Train. He told the producers he'd only act in it if he could also direct. He won that negotiation. The final train scene alone took 6 days to shoot and was filmed on a private track in Valencia. The movie earned critical praise and another Golden Globe nomination. Then in 1988 came Twins. The idea was wild. Pair DeVito with Arnold Schwarzenegger as long-lost twins. It sounded like a joke, but it worked. The 2 stars, along with director Ivan Reitman, took no upfront salary. Instead, they made a deal to split 40% of the profits. It was a huge risk, but it paid off massively. The film made $216 million worldwide, over $500 million in today's money. Each man earned around $35 to $40 million. That movie changed how people saw DeVito. He was no longer just a weird supporting actor. He was a leading man. He proved that you didn't need to be tall or conventionally handsome to carry a movie. You just had to be good. In 1989, he brought back his Romancing the Stone co-stars for The War of the Roses. The story was brutal, funny, and hit close to home for many. in Germany. The title even became slang for a particularly nasty divorce. DeVito's style, funny, strange, and deeply emotional, stood out from everything else on screen. Then came 1992. That year, DeVito transformed completely to play the Penguin in Batman Returns, directed by Tim Burton. He sat for hours in makeup to become the twisted villain Oswald Cobblepot. It wasn't just a costume. DeVito's performance was wild, creepy, and genuinely tragic. Fans loved it. He was even nominated for Best Villain at the MTV Movie Awards. Years later, he said he'd gladly play the Penguin again if Burton came back too. But DeVito didn't stop there. That same year, he directed Hoffa, a serious film about labor leader Jimmy Hoffa. Jack Nicholson played Hoffa, while DeVito directed and acted alongside him. It was a bold shift from comedy, and he handled it with confidence. Also in 1992, Jersey Films officially launched as a standalone production company. DeVito teamed up with Michael Shamberg and later Stacey Sher, and together they built one of the most powerful independent studios of the 1990s.